So you're interested in possibly getting the M2 Pro Mac Mini, the base edition with 16 gigabytes of unified memory and a 512 gigabyte solid state internal drive. Well, then this video is for you. Hello everyone, my name is Amir and I recently purchased the M2 Pro Mac Mini. I actually downgraded from an M1 Max MacBook Pro, a laptop solution that I loved, but I just wanted something specifically for this office, specifically for this space. And I previously had experience with the M1 Mac Mini, a computer that I absolutely loved and was sad to see go when I did upgrade to the M1 Max MacBook Pro. So I was more than happy to go back to the Mac Mini family when they announced the M2 Pro lineup. Now, in this video, I'm going to cover some pros and some cons of the M2 Pro Mac Mini, starting with this. The price to me is the perfect price. At $1,299, at $1,299 before tax, you are getting a computer that first and foremost has the M2 Pro chip in it, that has not 2 Thunderbolt ports back there, but actually 4, and you get HDMI 2.1 as opposed to HDMI 2.0. Those alone to me are worth the upgrade. Now, you do also get the 16 gigabytes of unified memory to start, and you can upgrade to 32 gigabytes of unified memory, and your base storage is the 512 gigabytes, which I got. You can go all the way up to 8 terabytes if you like, but I stuck with the base package right there. To get that performance from an M2 Pro chip that this machine gives you at a price point that is just under $1,300, to me is the absolute perfect sweet spot. Now, I touched on the ports a little bit, but let's not gloss over them. The fact that, again, you get 4 Thunderbolt ports, you get 2 USB 3 ports, you get 1 HDMI 2.1 port, and you get the 3.5mm audio jack. Now, a lot of times we get computers that don't have all the bells and whistles as far as ports go. So we have to get dongles, we have to get hubs, we have to get all these other accessories that provide us with the additional ports that we need. I love the fact that the Mac Mini, as is in this configuration, comes with more than enough ports that I would possibly need. The next pro is flexibility. Look, I know that the iMacs are sexy, and again, having a laptop solution like I did is preferable for some, but for me, having a desktop solution, specifically a Mac Mini, that I can choose my own monitor, I can choose my own keyboard, I can choose my own mouse. I mean, you could do these things if you get an iMac as well, if you want to get a second monitor or use your own peripherals. But the fact that Apple doesn't bundle it with the Mac Mini, keeping the price point low, therefore allowing you to get what you want to do. And again, with the inclusion of the HDMI 2.1 port, you can get up to 3 displays. 2 of them can be up to 6K resolution at 60 Hz over Thunderbolt, and 1 display with up to 4K resolution at 60 Hz over HDMI. You could do 2 displays up to 6K resolution at 60 Hz over Thunderbolt, and 1 display up to 4K resolution at 144 Hz over HDMI, or 1 display with up to 8K resolution at 60 Hz or 4K resolution at 240 Hz over HDMI. There are a lot of different options that you can get as far as displays go with the M2 Pro Mac Mini, which again makes this a huge win in my opinion. The 4th pro on my list is the form factor. Now look, I've been singing the praises of the Mac Studio ever since they released it. But every time I go to the Apple Store and I actually take a look at the Mac Studio and I check it out, I'm always kind of blown away by the sheer size of it. It seems a little too bulky for me and might not fit some desktop solutions. In fact, my setup right here where I have the Thunderbolt display from 2011, still my favorite display that Apple has ever created, by the way, I don't think that I can fit a Mac Studio in the space that I have in that little crevice there. The M2 Pro Mac Mini, or the Mac Mini in general, the form factor to me is so amazing. The fact that it's a small cube that's 7 inches in diameter, 7.7 I believe, and can do all the things that it can do in that small form factor, and is super light, absolutely easily the lightest computer I've ever owned, makes that a huge win for me. And that actually piggybacks into the 5th and final pro of the M2 Pro Mac Mini, and that is its performance. Look, this thing has been a machine ever since I've got it. Now, have there been some hiccups here and there? Absolutely, and that's because I transitioned again from a laptop solution with 32 gigabytes of memory and 1 terabyte of solid state drive to 16 gigabytes of unified memory with a 512 solid state drive. And transitioning all my plugins and virtual instruments and transitions and all that kind of stuff for both Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro, I've run into a few hiccups here and there, but once I've gotten those smoothed out through downloading updates or new drivers or anything like that, now I'm getting everything to work just the way I want it to be. And ever since then, it's been a very pleasant experience, a very satisfying experience editing video on this thing and also producing audio as well. Now, it hasn't been all amazing. There are some cons to the M2 Pro Mac Mini that I'm going to get to in a second. But first, I wanted to say that if you are enjoying this video, please do me a favor and give it a like. And join in the conversation in the comments as well. I love talking to you and talking about tech and all sorts of things that I talk about in these videos, more in depth in the comments. So please go ahead and do that if you choose to do so. And don't forget to subscribe as well. I'm almost at 1,500 subscribers. So your support would be amazing, again, if you choose to do so. All right, the first con is in fact that the base M2 Pro Mac Mini does just come with 16 gigabytes of unified memory and again the 512 solid state drive. It's 2023 and the computers that we're buying from Apple, the base model is still under 1 terabyte. To me, that is absolutely criminal. These operating systems take up a lot of space. As a Logic Pro user, the sounds that come with Logic when you download the full sound library takes up a good amount of space. Again, as a content creator, I'm downloading heavy applications like Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro, and all that kind of stuff. So more space would be appreciated. Now, I'm sure you can comment back to me and saying like, well, you're actually not really using a Pro computer. You should be getting a Mac Studio. Or why did you ditch your M1 Max MacBook Pro? And to that, you are absolutely right. Those are the more pro solutions that do come with the 1 terabyte of space. Although I would argue that the base model M1 Max Mac Studio also comes with 500 gigabytes of solid state drive space, which drives me absolutely nuts that that's even an option. But still, in my opinion, having 1 terabyte as the base would be much more appreciated. But you know, I'm able to get it to work with external drives connected through Thunderbolt and through USB 3. Also, I don't like the fact that on the M2 Pro Mac Mini, you can't upgrade from 16 gigabytes of unified memory to 24. You have to go from 16 to 32. 24 is not an option. Whereas with the regular M2 Mac Minis, you can upgrade from 8 gigabytes of unified memory to 24. So I find that a little weird, but with the M2 Pro Mac Mini, you can't upgrade to 24 gigabytes of unified memory. You have to go from 16 to 32. It is what it is. The second con will always be the biggest con against this machine, and the fact that there are no ports in the front. Specifically, there's no SD card slot. Now, it was a huge revolution for a lot of folks, including myself, when the MacBook Pros got updated in 2021 with that new design that brought back all the ports that we know and love from the HDMI port and the SD card slot. It was also a really big deal when the Mac Studios got announced, and they also had the SD card slot right there in the front for you to use. So it wouldn't kill Apple if they were able to put an SD card slot, maybe not necessarily on the front, but on the side or on the back of the Mac Mini. The fact that I have to use a dongle simply to just connect an SD card in here is a little bit annoying, not my favorite thing in the world. But again, it's one of those things that's kind of a pet peeve. I really do wish that an SD card slot was on the Mac Mini. To me, it would elevate its appeal that much more. The third con going against this thing is that of all the desktop and laptop products that Apple makes, this one easily has the worst speakers ever. The speakers on this are absolutely terrible and should not be used in any way, shape, or form. You should absolutely be using external speakers, or in my case, using your display speakers. Thankfully, the Thunderbolt display from 2011 has amazing speakers, and I love using those speakers as my everyday computer speakers, if you will. Now, I also do have some KRK monitors, which I don't know if you can see right over there. So that's for my production stuff. So every now and then when I need to listen to stuff on beefier speakers, I have those connected through my Apollo Twin, which is going through Thunderbolt. But you definitely do not want to be using the Mac Mini speakers. They are a travesty. Some of the worst sounding speakers on the market, and really should not be your solution for audio. And my fourth and final con for this product, and yes, I only have 4, is the fact that there's no included peripherals. Now, I know I posted that as a pro before, but if you are an everyday consumer looking for a relatively cheap option for a computer, now we're just talking Mac Minis in general, so either the M2 Mac Mini or the M2 Pro Mac Mini, then I don't know if it's necessarily fair for you to walk into an Apple store, buy a Mac Mini, and then be like, oh wait, there's no keyboard, there's no mouse. All right, well, let me go buy the keyboard from Apple. Oh, it's $100? All right, let me go buy the mouse from Apple. Oh, it's like $80? All right. So now there's like an additional almost $200 charge just for you to get some peripherals if you don't know any better. If you are more savvy, then you can go on Amazon and you can buy, you know, a Logitech mouse and keyboard, or you can buy super cheapy stuff from the internet, from Amazon, that'll do its job. But to have like that nice uniform look that the iMacs have or anything like that, that's not an option with the Mac Mini. Now for me, that's not an option because I actually like the fact that I can customize my setup, but I can understand how for some people that would be an issue. So again, no included peripherals. For me, it's totally fine, but for you, it might be a deal breaker. But what's really important is how this computer works for you. And if you want to see how the M2 Pro Mac Mini works for me in both content creation for audio and video, I just put out a video where I go into detail talking about my editing process and my audio production process using the M2 Pro Mac Mini. I'll link that right here. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking it, consider subscribing to this channel. And before I sign off, let me ask you this. Is the Mac Mini in general, at least the M1, M2, and M2 Pro variations, an S-tier Apple product? Sound off in the comment section below. My name is Amir. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.